Jasmine Carter's voice quakes as she records the voicemail. "Daddy, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have trusted him." The words catch in her throat, a sob breaking through. She hits send, and the phone slips from her hand, clattering to the warped wooden floor. Lightning flashes outside, illuminating the silhouette of a figure in the doorway. His shadow looms, heavy and deliberate. "You shouldn't have come here, Jazz," he says, his voice low, almost tender. Her scream is swallowed by the storm. The cabin reeks of damp wood and Mayandu, the air thick with dread. Jasmine's heart thunders as she presses herself against the wall, her eyes darting to the door. She'd come here to confront him, to demand answers about what she'd seen at the lake house party 2 nights ago. It was a chaotic bash thrown by Tyler Reed, the town's golden boy, whose parents were away on a cruise. Jasmine had been dancing, laughing, trying to fit in with the older crowd, when she slipped away to find a quiet corner. In a back room she saw something she couldn't unsee. A girl, younger, maybe 14, crying, her wrists red, and him, someone she trusted, standing over her, his face cold. She didn't know the girl's name then, but she'd heard whispers about Emily Grayson, a runaway from 2 years back. Jasmine thought she could handle it, thought her courage would shield her. She'd confronted him, demanded the truth, but now, alone in this rotting shack on the edge of Lakeview's forgotten woods, she knows she miscalculated. The figure steps closer, his boots heavy on the creaking floorboards. She recognizes him, Mark Thompson, her father's best friend, the man who'd taught her to fish, who'd driven her to school when her parents were working. His face is familiar yet foreign in the dim light, his eyes empty. "You saw too much," he says, and the world fades to black. 11 years later, Lakeview remains a town suspended in time. The lake sparkles under a lazy summer sun, its surface serene, betraying none of the secrets it holds. Main Street is lined with faded storefronts, the diner still serving greasy burgers to truckers, the hardware store still run by old Mr. Hensley, who remembers every face but never speaks of the girl who vanished. In a small, cluttered living room on the town's edge, David Carter sits hunched over a laptop, the voicemail playing on a loop through his earbuds. "Daddy, I'm sorry." His eyes are bloodshot, his face etched with lines that deepen with each passing year. The room is a shrine to Jasmine, photos pinned to the walls, her old hoodie draped over a chair, untouched. A half-empty bottle of whiskey sits on the table, his only companion most nights. He pauses the audio, his thumb hovering over the play button, as if one more listen might rewrite the past. David is 45 now, but grief has aged him beyond his years. His once strong frame is gaunt, his carpenter's hands calloused but idle. He hasn't worked a steady job since Jasmine disappeared. The voicemail is his lifeline, a 3-second tether to his daughter. He remembers the night it arrived, the storm raging outside, his phone buzzing on the kitchen counter. He'd been laughing with Sarah, their marriage still warm then, planning a camping trip with Jasmine and their younger son Ethan. They'd been a family, whole and hopeful, dreaming of marshmallow roasts and stargazing by the lake. He didn't check the message until morning, when Jasmine didn't come home. By then the police were at his door, their faces grim, and his world began to unravel. The search consumed weeks, divers scouring the lake, dogs combing the woods, volunteers combing every trail. They found her phone, waterlogged but intact, submerged near the shore. The voicemail was the only clue, and it led nowhere. David replays it now, each word a knife in his chest, the guilt a weight he can't shake. He should have answered, he should have known. David's mind drifts to the days before Jasmine's disappearance, when she'd been quieter, her laughter less frequent. He'd chalked it up to teenage moods, never imagining she was carrying a secret too heavy for her 16 years. He remembers her sitting at the kitchen table, sketching constellations, her pencil scratching out Orion and Ursa Major. She'd talk about the stars, her voice bright with wonder, saying she'd map the skies one day. David had smiled, proud, but distracted by work, by bills, by the mundane weight of life. He wonders now if she'd been trying to tell him something, her eyes searching his for reassurance he didn't give. The memory stings, A reminder of the moments he can't reclaim. Across town, in a cluttered trailer parked on a patch of overgrown grass, Sarah Carter kneels before a Ouija board, her hands trembling as she whispers, "Jasmine, baby, give me a sign." The air is thick with incense, the walls lined with dream catchers and crystal charms that gleam in the candlelight. The planchette doesn't move. It never does. Sarah's eyes dart to the framed photo of her daughter on the table. Jasmine at 15, laughing, her dark hair falling in waves, her eyes bright with dreams. Sarah's obsession with psychics has drained her savings, her hope whittled to a fragile thread. She's tried everything: tarot readings, seances, even a shady online medium who claimed to channel Jasmine's spirit for $500 a session. Nothing has brought her closer to her daughter. She wears Jasmine's old charm bracelet, the tiny silver star dangling from her wrist, a reminder of the girl who loved stargazing, who'd lie on the grass with Sarah and point out constellations, dreaming of becoming an astronomer. Sarah's hands hover over the Ouija board, her breath hitching. She's 42, but her face carries the weight of a decade of sleepless nights. Her blonde hair, once vibrant, is streaked with gray, pulled back in a messy bun. She doesn't notice the door creak open behind her. "Mom, this has to stop." Ethan's voice is sharp, cutting through the haze of incense. He's 20 now, lean and angry, his childhood stolen by a sister's absence and a family's grief. His dark eyes, so like Jasmine's, burn with frustration. He's spent years resenting his father's withdrawal, the police's failure, the town's pitying stares. She's gone. No ghost is gonna bring her back. Sarah's eyes flash with defiance, her voice rising. "You don't understand, Ethan. She's out there, I feel." Ethan's jaw tightens, his patience fraying. "You're chasing shadows, Mom. You're throwing away everything we have left." Sarah's hand slams on the table, the Ouija board rattling. "Don't you dare tell me how to grieve my daughter." Ethan flinches, the words cutting deeper than he'll admit. He turns away, his laptop bag slung over his shoulder, and steps into the night. Ethan's boots crunch on the gravel outside the trailer, the summer air warm against his skin. He's taller than David now, his frame wiry from years of restless energy. His black hoodie hides the tattoos on his arms, lines of code, a tribute to the only thing that's kept him sane. He's taught himself to hack, to navigate the dark corners of the internet, searching for traces of Jasmine. He's found scraps over the years, an old chat log from her phone, a deleted social media post, but nothing solid. Still he keeps looking, driven by a promise he made at 9 years old, standing at the lake's edge as the police dragged it for her body. "I'll find you, Jazz," he'd whispered, tears streaming down his face as his parents stood broken beside him. He hasn't stopped trying. Ethan's obsession with finding Jasmine began the summer after she vanished. He'd sneak into her room, untouched since that night, and sit on her bed, clutching her star-patterned notebook. He'd read her notes on constellations, her dreams of studying astronomy, and feel a pang of guilt for every time he'd teased her about being a nerd. He started teaching himself to code, first on an old desktop David had fixed up for him, then on a laptop he bought with money from odd jobs. Coding became his refuge, a way to control something in a world that felt chaotic. By 15, he was hacking into school servers, not for mischief but to practice, to sharpen his skills. By 18, he was scouring the dark web, chasing whispers of missing girls, hoping one might lead to Jasmine. Each dead end hardened him, but it also fueled his resolve. In the same town, Lila Hensley works the counter at the hardware store, her grandfather's pride and joy. She's 22 with sharp green eyes and a guarded smile. She was Jasmine's best friend, the last person to see her at the party before she left with Mark Thompson. Lila carries a secret, a weight she's never shared. She'd argued with Jasmine that night, a stupid fight over Tyler Reed, the town's golden boy, captain of the football team. Lila had a crush on him, but Jasmine warned her to stay away, saying he was bad news. Lila snapped, told Jasmine to go home, to stop being dramatic. When Jasmine didn't show up at school the next day, Lila thought she was sulking. By the time she realized the truth, it was too late. Now Lila keeps to herself, avoiding the lake, avoiding the memory. But she saw something else that night. Tyler pulling Jasmine aside, his hand tight on her arm, his voice low and angry. She didn't hear what he said, but Jasmine's face was pale when she walked away. Lila never told anyone, not even the police, because Tyler's father, Councilman Richard Reed, had the town in his pocket, and she was scared. The guilt eats at her, a constant ache. Lila's life since Jasmine's disappearance has been a quiet spiral. She dropped out of college after a semester, unable to focus, haunted by the fight that was their last moment together. She returned to Lakeview, taking over shifts at the hardware store to help her grandfather, whose health is failing. Every time a customer mentions Jasmine, Lila's stomach twists, and she busies herself with inventory to avoid their eyes. She's tried to move on, dating here and there, but no one gets close. She dreams of Jasmine sometimes, her friend's voice accusing her, "You let me go." The dreams wake her in a cold sweat, and she lies awake, wondering if she could have saved her. Tyler Reed, now 27, runs a small auto shop on the edge of town. He's charming, broad-shouldered, with the same easy smile that won hearts in high school. But there's a shadow behind his eyes, a unease that surfaces when Jasmine's name comes up. He was at the party too, and though he told police he barely saw Jasmine that night, Lila remembers differently. She remembers Tyler whispering to Jasmine, her body tense, before she stormed off toward Mark's car. Tyler's alibi was airtight, backed by his parents and half the football team, but Lila's memory haunts her. She's kept silent, terrified of what Councilman Reed might do if she speaks. Tyler's life looks successful on the surface. His shop does well, and he's engaged to a sweet girl from a neighboring town, but he drinks too much, his temper flaring when he's alone. He avoids the lake, avoids the woods, avoids any mention. He tells himself he's moved on, that Jasmine's disappearance was a tragedy he had no part in. But late at night, when the whiskey hits, he sees her face pale, scared, accusing. He remembers the party, the way Jasmine looked at him when she caught him in that back room, her eyes wide with shock. He'd grabbed her arm, told her to keep quiet, said it was a misunderstanding. She didn't listen. She ran off, and he let her go, thinking Mark would handle it. Now with the voicemail resurfacing, his carefully constructed life feels like it's teetering on the edge. Ellen Reed, Tyler's mother, is a polished woman in her 50s, always seen at town events with a practiced smile. She's the perfect councilman's wife, hosting fundraisers and volunteering at the church, but her warmth hides a steely resolve to protect her family's reputation. Ellen was at home the night Jasmine disappeared, or so she claims, but she's been overly involved in the town's response to the case, organizing vigils and fundraisers that always felt performative to Sarah. Ellen's eyes flicker with unease whenever Jasmine's name is mentioned, and she's quick to deflect questions about Tyler's whereabouts that night. Ellen's life revolves around control of her image, her family, her husband's career. She's spent years cultivating the Reeds as Lakeview's model family, but the cracks are showing. She knows more than she lets on, has always known. She overheard Tyler on the phone with Mark that summer, their voices hushed, discussing a problem. She didn't ask questions, didn't want to know, but she made sure Tyler's alibi was ironclad, calling in favors from friends on the football team's parents. Now with the voicemail stirring up the past, she's on edge, her smile's tighter, her hands fidgeting when she thinks no one's watching. Hannah Grayson, 25, is another ghost in Lakeview's shadows. She's Emily Grayson's older sister, the girl who vanished 2 years before Jasmine. Hannah moved away after Emily's disappearance, unable to bear the town's pity, but she's back now, drawn by rumors of the voicemail resurfacing. She works as a bartender at the Rusty Anchor, Lakeview's dive bar, her blue eyes sharp with a quiet determination. Hannah's been searching for answers about Emily for years, piecing together scraps from old police reports and anonymous tips. She's convinced Emily's case is connected to Jasmine's, and the voicemail is her first real lead in a decade. She's reached out to Ethan online, using a pseudonym, sharing bits of her own research, but she hasn't revealed her identity. She's not ready to trust anyone, not yet. Hannah's return to Lakeview was reluctant, driven by a tip from an old contact, a retired cop who'd worked Emily's case. He'd mentioned a drifter, Victor Kane, who'd been in town when Emily vanished. Hannah spent years tracking Victor,
finding traces of him in police reports from other states, always one step behind. She's built a dossier, photos, aliases, rumors of a trafficking ring he might have worked for. The voicemail's reappearance feels like a sign, a chance to finally connect the dots. She's cautious though, knowing Lakeview's power structure protects its own. She watches Ethan from a distance, impressed by his skills but wary of his recklessness.
Carla Voss, a private investigator with a dubious reputation, enters the scene at Sarah's request. She's in her late 40s, with a smoker's rasp and a penchant for bending the truth. Sarah hired her last year, desperate for answers the police couldn't provide. Carla's promised breakthroughs, but her reports are vague. Her fees steep. She's in Lakeview now, sniffing around the reopened case, claiming she has a lead on a witness who saw Jasmine after the party. Sarah clings to her words, but Ethan distrusts her, sensing she's more interested in their money than the truth. Carla's past is murky. She's been run out of 2 cities for scamming grieving families, but she's good at selling hope. She knows Lakeview's underbelly, has contacts in the shadier parts of town, and isn't above bribing or blackmailing for information. She's found a witness, or so she claims, but she's holding out for a bigger payout from Sarah before sharing details. Ethan's hacking has her nervous. She's caught wind of his skills, and she's careful to keep her own digital footprint clean. Deputy Tom Carver, a grizzled officer in his early 40s, was a rookie during Jasmine's case. He's loyal to Ruiz but has ties to the Reeds, having grown up with Tyler and benefited from Councilman Reed's patronage. Tom's always been uneasy about the case, his gut telling him the investigation was mishandled, but he's kept quiet, fearing for his job. The voicemail's reappearance stirs his conscience, and he begins digging into old case files, risking his career. Tom's loyalty to Lakeview runs deep, but so does his guilt. He remembers the pressure from Councilman Reed to bury leads, the late-night calls reminding him how much he owed the Reeds for his job, his house, his life. He's married now, with a young daughter, and the thought of her vanishing like Jasmine haunts him. He's started meeting with Sophie Miller in secret, sharing what he knows, hoping to make amends without losing everything. Sophie Miller, a 30-year-old journalist from a nearby city, arrives in Lakeview after Mia's ex-post goes viral. She's been investigating cold cases in the region, including Emily's, and sees Jasmine's case as a chance to break a big story. Sophie's relentless, with a knack for uncovering secrets, but her presence unnerves the town's elite, especially the Reed. She's been poking around the lake, interviewing locals, and digging into Councilman Reed's financial dealings, unaware of the danger she's courting. Sophie's driven by a personal connection. Her cousin disappeared in a similar small town when she was a teenager, and the case was never solved. She sees Jasmine and Emily in her cousin's face, and it fuels her determination. She's meticulous, cross-referencing police reports with public records, building a timeline that points to a pattern of missing girls in the region. She's noticed the black sedan following her, but she's not backing down. She's too close. Halfway across the country, in a bustling Chicago coffee shop, Mia Torres sips her latte and scrolls through her phone. She's 25, a graphic designer with a knack for photography, passing through Lakeview on a solo road trip. Her camera is full of scenic shots, sunsets over the lake, the quaint charm of Main Street. She opens her voice recorder app to check a memo from yesterday, a reminder about a hiking trail near Lakeview, but when she hits play her blood runs cold. "Daddy, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have trusted him." The voice isn't hers. She replays it, her hands shaking. The audio is crisp, unmistakable, but she's never heard it before. She doesn't know why it's on her phone or how it got there. Mia's heart races as she listens again, the coffee shop fading around her. She's not from Lakeview, has no connection to the town beyond a few photos. She checks the file's details created yesterday. No metadata, no explanation. She tries to delete it, but her thumb hesitates. The voice, raw with fear, feels like a plea she can't ignore. She Googles the words, hoping for answers, but finds nothing. On a whim she posts about it on X. "Found a creepy voicemail on my phone. Not mine. Anyone know what this is?" She attaches a snippet, careful not to share the whole thing. Within hours, a user from Lakeview DMs her. "That's Jasmine Carter's voicemail. She went missing and where did you get this?" The user is Hannah, using her pseudonym, her heart pounding as she types. Mia drives back to Lakeview that night, her stomach in knots. The police station is a squat brick building, its lobby a time capsule of faded posters in yellowed clipping. Jasmine's face stares out from a missing persons flyer, her smile frozen at 16. Detective Maria Ruiz, now in her late 50s, takes Mia's phone with gloved hands. Her dark hair is streaked with gray, her eyes sharp despite the year. "This voicemail was never released to the public," she says, her voice tight. "Only David Carter had it, and us." She looks at Mia, a stranger with no ties to the town, and feels the old case stirring like a beast waking from sleep. Ruiz plays the audio, and the room falls silent. Her partner, Officer Jake Daniels, a rookie back when Jasmine disappeared, shakes his head. "This doesn't make sense. How's it on her phone?" Mia shrugs, her voice small. "I don't know. I recorded a memo, and this showed up." Ruiz's mind races. She remembers the search for Jasmine, the divers in the lake, the dogs scouring the woods, the press conferences that dwindled as leads dried up. They'd found Jasmine's phone in the lake, waterlogged but intact, with the voicemail sent to David's number. No other copies exist, or so they thought. David arrives at the station, his hands shaking, his flannel shirt hanging loose on his frame. Ruiz plays the voicemail, and his face crumples. "It's her," he whispers. "It's Jasmine." Sarah arrives minutes later, her eyes red, her charm bracelet jangling, as she clutches David's arm. Ethan trails behind, his expression unreadable. He's been to this station too many times, sat through too many empty promises. Lila is there too, called in by Ruiz after Mia's post on. She stands in the corner, her arms crossed, her eyes avoiding the Carters. She hasn't seen them in years, hasn't been able to face them since the guilt took root. Tyler Reed is there as well, summoned by Ruiz after Lila mentioned his name in a hushed phone call. He leans against the wall, his posture casual, but his fingers tap nervously against his thigh. "I don't know anything about a voicemail," he says, his voice smooth but edged with unease. Ruiz watches him closely, her instincts prickling. She remembers Tyler from the original investigation. His alibi was airtight, backed by his parents and half the football team, but something about him never sat right. Hannah slips into the station unnoticed, lingering near the door, her bartender apron still tied around her waist. She's here to listen, to gather scraps of information about Jasmine's case that might lead to Emily. Carla Voss strides in, uninvited, her leather jacket creaking. "I heard about the voicemail," she says, her voice brash. "I've got a witness who saw Jasmine that night, after the party." Sarah's eyes light up, hope flaring, but Ethan's glare is icy. "You've been taking my mom's money for a year, and haven't found a damn thing," he snaps. Carla smirks, unfazed. "Patience, kid. I'm close." Ruiz raises an eyebrow but says nothing, her focus on the phone. Deputy Tom Carver stands near the back, his arms crossed, his face unreadable. He's been quiet since the case reopened, but his mind is churning. He remembers the pressure from Councilman Reed to wrap up the investigation quickly, the subtle threats about his job. Tom's loyalty to Ruiz is wavering, his guilt pushing him to act, but he's not ready to cross the Reeds. Not yet. Sophie Miller, the journalist, lingers outside the station, her notebook tucked under her arm. She's been interviewing locals, digging into old records, and has already ruffled feathers. Councilman Reed's office called her editor, warning her to back off, but Sophie's stubborn. She's found a discrepancy in the town's budget from 2014, a large sum funneled to a vague community project, around the time Jasmine vanished. She's not sure what it means, but she's determined to find out. "Give me the phone," Ethan says, his voice. Ruiz hesitates, but his glare is unrelenting. "I can find out how it got there." Daniels snorts, skeptical. "You're a kid, Ethan. Let us handle it." Ethan's jaw tightens. "I'm not a kid, and you've had 11 years to handle it." Ruiz nods, handing him the phone. She's seen Ethan's work. His anonymous tips have reached her desk before, scraps of data that led nowhere but showed his skill. She trusts him, even if Daniels doesn't. That night in his dimly lit apartment, Ethan dives into the phone's metadata. His desk is a chaos of energy drink cans, tangled cables, and sticky notes scrawled with code snippets. His laptop screen glows with lines of code, a digital battlefield where he's fought for years. He's hacked into systems before: school servers, local databases, but this feels different, like he's standing on the edge of a cliff. The voicemail's origin is a mystery.
It's not stored in any cloud account Mia recognizes. And the file's creation date is yesterday. Impossibly recent. Ethan's heart pounds as he uncovers a hidden folder buried in the phone's storage, encrypted with a key he recognizes. It's the same encryption he found years ago, in a forgotten backup of Jasmine's old phone, the one they pulled from the lake. He cracks the folder open, his breath catches. Inside are audio clips, photos and a single text file. The audio clips are snippets of Jasmine, her laugh, her voice singing a lullaby she used to hum to Ethan when he was little, her teasing him about his messy room. The photos are grainy, taken at the party the night she disappeared. Ethan zooms in on one, a blurry shot of Jasmine dancing, her smile forced, a figure in the background watching her, his stomach twist. It's Mark Thompson, his father's best friend, the one who was at their house the week Jasmine vanished, the one who brought flowers to her memorial, the one who always asked how they were holding up. Ethan opens the text file, a diary entry written by Jasmine, the night she disappeared. He said he'd protect me. He lied. I saw what he did to her, and now he knows I know. The words burn into Ethan's mind, each one a dagger. He scrolls through the photos again, his hands shaking. Mark's face appears in another shot, closer now, his expression unreadable. Ethan remembers the party, remembers Jasmine begging to go, saying Mark would drive her home. Mark, who'd been like an uncle, always around, always too close. The realization hits like a tidal wave. Mark wasn't just a family friend, he was the him Jasmine didn't trust. Ethan's mind flashes back to the summer before Jasmine disappeared. She'd been different, quieter, her eyes darting when Mark was around. Ethan was too young to understand then, but he remembers her locking her bedroom door at night, something she'd never done before. He remembers Mark's hand on her shoulder at a barbecue, the way she flinched. Ethan had thought she was just being moody, a typical teenager. Now the memories rearrange themselves into something sinister. He remembers another detail, Jasmine whispering to Lila, at the party, her face pale before storming off. Lila had looked shaken, but when Ethan asked her later, she brushed it off. Now he wonders what Lila knows. He spends hours cross-referencing the photos with old social media posts, digging through archived accounts. He finds a pattern. Mark was at every event Jasmine attended that summer, always in the background, always watching. Ethan's anger builds, a slow burn that threatens to consume him. He hacks into Mark's old email account, long dormant, and finds a thread between Mark and an unknown contact, dated the week of Jasmine's disappearance. The messages are cryptic. She's asking too many questions. Handle it. Ethan's blood runs cold. He doesn't know who the other person is, but he knows Mark wasn't acting alone. He pulls up old phone records he'd accessed years ago through a hacked database. He finds calls between Mark and a number registered to Councilman Richard Reed, Tyler's father, a man with enough influence to keep his son out of trouble. Ethan's stomach churns. Tyler was at the party too, and Lila's silence about that night suddenly feels heavy. Ethan sends a text to Lila, his fingers hesitating over the screen. "We need to talk, now." She doesn't respond. Meanwhile, Sarah meets with Carla Voss at a rundown motel on the edge of town. The PI's eyes glint with promises as she slides a folder across the table. "I found a guy who saw Jasmine after the party," she says, her voice low. "He's willing to talk for a price." Sarah's hands shake as she opens the folder, finding only a blurry photo of a girl who might be Jasmine, walking near the lake. "This could be anyone," Sarah says, her voice breaking. Carla shrugs. "You want answers, you gotta pay for them." Sarah writes a check, her savings dwindling, her hope tethered to Carla's dubious leads. Sarah's desperation has consumed her, reshaping her life into a single-minded quest. She's lost friends, her job at the library, her connection with Ethan. She clings to the idea that Jasmine is alive, a belief that's both her anchor and her torment. She's spent hours at the lake, staring at the water, imagining Jasmine emerging from its depths, whole and smiling. The Ouija board, the psychics, the rituals, they're her way of keeping Jasmine close, of refusing to let go. But each failure chips away at her, leaving her more fragile, more isolated. She doesn't see Ethan's pain, doesn't see David's descent into whiskey and despair. She only sees Jasmine, her little girl, lost but not gone. Hannah, working her shift at the Rusty Anchor, overhears locals whispering about the voicemail. She slips into the back, pulling up Mia's ex-post on her phone. She recognizes the words immediately. Jasmine's voicemail mirrors a note, Emily left behind. I trusted the wrong person. Hannah's been chasing leads on Emily for years, convinced her sister didn't run away. She's found connections. A name, Victor Kane, a drifter, who worked odd jobs in Lakeview around the time Emily vanished. She's never told anyone, not even the police, fearing they'd dismiss her like they did before. She sends Ethan another anonymous message, this time with a photo of Victor, his scarred face unmistakable. Hannah's life has been defined by loss. After Emily vanished, her parents fell apart, her father left, her mother drank herself into oblivion. Hannah was 17, forced to grow up fast, working to support herself while chasing leads on Emily. She's tough, resourceful, but the years have worn her down. She's back in Lakeview, because she has nowhere else to go, no other leads to follow. The Rusty Anchor is a means to an end, a place to listen, to watch, to gather scraps of information. She's learned to read people, to spot lies in their eyes, and she sees it in Tyler Reed when he comes in for a beer, his smile too tight, his hands fidgeting.
Sophie Miller's investigation takes her to the town hall, where she requests financial records from 2014. The clerk, a nervous woman under Councilman Reed's thumb, stalls her, but Sophie's persistent. She finds a $50,000 patent labeled Community Outreach, funneled to a shell company with no clear purpose. She cross-references it with Mark's financials, supplied by an anonymous source, Ethan, and finds a matching deposit. Sophie's heart races. She's onto something big, but she knows she's being watched. She's noticed a black sedan following her at a distance, its driver obscured. Sophie's investigation is more than a job, it's a mission. Her cousin's disappearance left a hole in her family, a wound that never healed. She spent years chasing stories of missing girls, hoping each one might bring her closer to understanding what happened to her cousin. Lakeview feels like the epicenter of something bigger, a pattern of disappearances that stretches beyond Jasmine and Emily. She's found records of other girls, 3 in the last 15 years, all from small towns nearby, all written off as runaway. She's building a case, but she's careful, knowing the Reeds' influence runs deep. Ethan tracks Lila down at the hardware store, where she's restocking shelves. The store is quiet, the air heavy with the smell of sawdust and paint. Lila freezes when she sees him, her green eyes darting to the door. I don't know anything, Ethan, she says before he can speak, but her voice wavers and Ethan steps closer, his tone low but firm. You were her best friend. You saw something that night. Tell me. Lila's hands tremble as she grips a box of nails. I can't, she whispers. You don't know what they'll do. Ethan's eyes narrow. Who's they? Lila shakes her head, tears welling, and runs to the back room. Lila's fear is a living thing, coiled tight in her chest. She spent years avoiding the truth, avoiding Ethan, avoiding the lake. She knows what she saw, Tyler's anger, Jasmine's fear, Mark's shadow in the background. She knows Councilman Reed's power, has seen how he silences people with a smile and a threat. She stayed quiet to protect her grandfather, to protect herself, but the guilt is a weight she can't carry much longer. She started writing letters to Jasmine, unsent, tucked in a box under her bed, apologies she'll never speak aloud. Ethan doesn't follow. Instead, he hacks into Lila's social media, something he's avoided out of respect for her grief. He finds a private message thread from the week after Jasmine disappeared, between Lila and Tyler. You can't tell anyone, Tyler wrote. It'll ruin everything. Lila's response was a single word. Okay. Ethan's pulse races. He knows Lila's hiding something, and Tyler's involved. He sends the messages to Ruiz anonymously, along with a note, check Tyler Reed's alibi again. Ruiz is piecing together her own lead. The voicemail on Mia's phone has her team baffled, but she's focused on Mark. She's always suspected he knew more than he let on, but his alibi was solid, backed by Councilman Reed, who claimed Mark was at a poker game the night Jasmine disappeared. Now with Ethan's evidence, Ruiz digs into Mark's financials. She finds payments to an offshore account, small but regular, starting a month after Jasmine vanished. The account is linked to a shell company, but Ruiz's gut tells her it's tied to someone in Lakeview, someone with power. Deputy Tom Carver pulls Ruiz aside after the meeting, his voice low. I found something in the old case files, he says,
glancing over his shoulder. A witness statement was buried. A gas station clerk who saw Jasmine with a man matching Mark's description, heading toward the wood. Reed made sure it never saw daylight. Ruiz's eyes narrow. "Why didn't you tell me then?" Tom shifts uncomfortably. "I was new." Reed said it cost me my badge. Ruiz clenches her fist but nods. "Find that clerk, now." Tom's decision to come clean is a turning point. He spent years wrestling with his silence, knowing he could have pushed harder, could have fought Reed's influence. He started having nightmares, seeing Jasmine's face, her eyes pleading. He's risking everything now, his job, his family's stability, but he can't live with the guilt anymore. He tracks down the clerk, now living in a trailer park 2 towns over, and convinces him to talk. The clerk's story is shaky, but it matches the timeline. A girl scared with a man who looked like Mark, driving toward the woods. Ethan spends the next 2 days digging deeper, barely sleeping. He hacks into Mark's current cloud storage, using credentials he pieced together from old emails. He finds a locked folder, the same encryption as before. It takes hours to crack, but when it opens, Ethan's heart stops. There's a video, time-stamped the night Jasmine disappeared. It's shaky, filmed on a phone, showing a dark road near the lake. Jasmine's voice is faint, pleading, "Please Mark, just let me go." The camera pans to her face, terrified, her hands bound. Mark's voice is calm, almost gentle. "You should have stayed quiet, Jazz." The video cuts off. Ethan's vision blurs with tears, but he forces himself to keep going. He finds more files, screenshots of texts between Mark and another number, discussing a girl named Emily, who vanished 2 years before Jasmine. The pieces fall into place. Jasmine had seen something at the party, something about Emily, something Mark couldn't let her expose. Ethan doesn't know if Jasmine is alive or dead, but the video is enough to bury Mark. He finds another file, a photo of Jasmine in a dimly lit room, time-stamped 6 months after her disappearance. She's pale, her eyes hollow, but she's alive. Ethan's breath catches. She was alive at least for a while. He calls Ruiz, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. "I have something you need to see." He sends her the files, every damning piece of evidence. The police raid Mark's house that evening, a quiet cabin on the outskirts of town. Mark is calm, too calm, as they cuff him. He doesn't resist, doesn't speak. In his basement, they find a locked room, walls lined with photos of Jasmine, some from before she disappeared, some doctored to look recent, as if he'd been imagining her alive all these years. There's a laptop with a cloud account linked to Jasmine's old phone, backups he'd kept hidden. The voicemail had been uploaded accidentally, synced to Mia's phone through a glitch in a shared cloud service. Mark had accessed years ago, never realizing it would resurface. In the interrogation room, Mark sits across from Ruiz, his hands folded, his face blank. "I didn't mean for it to happen," he says finally, his voice flat. "She wouldn't let it go. She kept asking about Emily, saying she'd tell everyone." He doesn't look at Ruiz, his eyes fixed on the table. "I just wanted her to stop." He doesn't say where Jasmine is, doesn't offer a body or a grave. Ruiz presses, her voice sharp, but Mark shuts down, his silence a final act of control. Mark's confession is a half-truth, a calculated move to protect someone or something bigger. He's always been a follower, not a leader, and Ruiz senses he's shielding someone higher up. She's seen men like Mark before, men who take the fall to protect the real power. She pushes harder, but he clams up, his eyes cold, his resolve unbreakable. She knows there's more to the story, and she's determined to find it. Ruiz shifts her focus to Tyler. She brings him in for questioning, and he's less composed now, his charm cracking. "I told you I barely saw Jasmine that night," he says, but his eyes dart to the door. Ruiz slides the messages from Lila's account across the table. "Then why were you telling Lila to keep quiet?" Tyler's face pales, but he recovers quickly. "That was about something else. A fight, nothing to do with Jasmine." Ruiz doesn't buy it. She's seen too many liars in her career. Tyler's unraveling is subtle but undeniable. He's spent years building a life, a business, a future, but the past is catching up. He knows Lila's silence is fragile, knows Ethan's digging won't stop. He's started having panic attacks, waking in the night with his heart racing, Jasmine's face in his mind. He tells himself he didn't know what Mark was planning, that he only wanted Jasmine to stay quiet about what she saw. But the truth is murkier, and he's terrified of it coming to light. Lila meanwhile is unraveling. She shows up at Ethan's apartment that night, her eyes red from crying. "I should have told someone," she says, her voice breaking. "I saw Tyler with Jasmine at the party. He was angry. He grabbed her arm, said she was ruining everything. I thought it was just about the fight we had, but then she left with Mark," and Lila's voice cracks. "I should have stopped her." Ethan's heart aches for her, but his anger is stronger. "Why didn't you tell the police?" Lila shakes her head. "Tyler's dead. He said he'd make my life hell if I talked. He's got the whole town in his pocket." Lila's confession is a dam breaking. She tells Ethan everything: the argument with Jasmine, Tyler's anger, Mark's presence at the party. She tells him about the night after Jasmine disappeared, when Councilman Reed showed up at the hardware store, his smile cold, his words a warning. "Keep your mouth shut, Lila, for your grandfather's sake." She's been carrying that fear for 11 years, but seeing Ethan, seeing his determination gives her the courage to speak. She agrees to go to Ruiz, to tell her everything, even if it means facing the Reed's wrath. Ethan's mind races. Councilman Reed's influence explains why the investigation stalled, why Mark's alibi held, why Tyler was never pressed. He sends Lila's confession to Ruiz, along with the photo of Jasmine, from 6 months after her disappearance. Ruiz moves fast, securing a warrant for Councilman Reed's financials. She finds matching payments to the same offshore account Mark used, a trail leading to a man named Victor Kane, a drifter with a rap sheet, who passed through Lakeview years ago. Sarah, desperate for answers, meets Carla Voss again. The PI claims her witness, a former gas station clerk, saw Jasmine with a man matching Victor's description, heading toward a motel in a neighboring town. Sarah clings to the story, but Ethan's skeptical. He hacks into Carla's email, finding correspondence with a known con artist. Carla's been fleecing Sarah, feeding her false hope. Ethan confronts his mother, his voice gentle but firm. "She's lying, Mom. She's taking advantage of you." Sarah's face crumples, her hope shattered, but she nods, tears streaming down her face. Sarah's confrontation with Carla is a turning point. She's spent years chasing ghosts, but Ethan's evidence forces her to face reality. She cuts ties with Carla, her heart breaking as she lets go of the false hope that sustained her. She starts attending a support group for parents of missing children, finding solace in shared pain. She's not ready to give up on Jasmine, but she's starting to see Ethan, to see David, to rebuild the family she still has. Hannah reaches out to Ethan directly, revealing her identity. "I'm Emily's sister," she says, her voice steady. "I think Victor took both our sisters." She shares her research, Victor's history of petty crimes, his connections to a trafficking ring that operated in the region a decade ago. Ethan's heart sinks. The possibility that Jasmine was taken, not killed, both terrifies and galvanizes him. He and Hannah agree to work together, pooling their resources. Hannah's partnership with Ethan is a lifeline. She's spent years alone, chasing leads that went nowhere, but Ethan's skills and determination give her hope. They meet in secret, sharing files, mapping Victor's movements. Hannah tells Ethan about Emily, her love of painting, her shy smile, her dream of traveling the world. She tells him about the note Emily left, so similar to Jasmine's voicemail, and they both feel the weight of their shared loss. They're not just fighting for their sisters, they're fighting for each other. Sophie's investigation takes a dangerous turn. She's followed to her motel by the black sedan, and her room is ransacked while she's out. She finds a note tucked under her pillow: "Stop digging, or you'll regret it." Sophie's shaken but undeterred. She meets with Tom Carver in secret, who admits he's found the gas station clerk, now living in a nearby town. The clerk's scared but confirms he saw Jasmine with a man resembling Victor, not Mark, that night. Sophie shares this with Ethan, who's now convinced Victor is the key. Sophie's courage is tested as the threats escalate. She's followed again, this time by 2 men in a pickup truck, their faces hidden. She starts carrying pepper spray, sleeping with her door locked. But she keeps digging, finding a link between Victor and a trucking company that operated in Lakeview in The company's records show payments to Councilman Reed, buried under layers of shell companies. She's close to blowing the case wide open, but she knows the cost could be her life. Ethan's digging leads him to a dark web forum, where Victor's name appears in encrypted posts. He cracks one, finding coordinates to an abandoned motel in a neighboring state. Against Hannah's warnings, Ethan drives there alone, his heart pounding. The motel is a crumbling shell, its windows boarded, the air thick with dust. He finds a hidden room, a mattress on the floor, and a notebook with Jasmine's handwriting, star charts, her old obsession. A noise behind him makes him spin, but it's only a... Still he feels watched, the hairs on his neck rising. He grabs the notebook and leaves, unaware of a figure in the shadows, Victor's scarred face lit briefly by a cigarette's glow. Ethan's trip to the motel is a reckless move, born of desperation. He knows he should have waited for Ruiz, for Hannah, but the notebook feels like a piece of Jasmine, a tangible connection to the sister he's lost. He spends hours studying the star charts, recognizing her meticulous handwriting, her love of the cosmos. He finds a note tucked in the back. "If you find this, I'm still out there. Don't stop looking." The words hit him like a punch, renewing his resolve, but also his fear. He knows Victor is dangerous, knows he's stepping into a world he might not walk away from. The family gathers at the lake's edge the next morning, the water still and silent. David clutches Jasmine's hoodie, his tears falling into the sand. Sarah holds Ethan's hand, her grip fierce, as if anchoring herself to the son she still has. Ethan stares at the water, his anger giving way to a hollow ache. They've found answers, but not closure. Jasmine's voice echoes in their minds, her final words, a wound that will never heal. "I shouldn't have trusted him." David speaks first, his voice hoarse. "I should have listened to her. That night she called me, and I didn't pick up. The guilt has eaten him alive for 11 years, a poison he can't purge." Sarah squeezes his arm, her own guilt mirrored in her eyes. "We trusted him," she says. "We all did." Ethan says nothing, his jaw tight. He's spent years blaming his parents, the police, himself. Now he sees the truth. Mark manipulated them all, a predator hiding in the warmth of their trust, with Tyler and Councilman Reed as his shields. David's grief has reshaped him, turning a once vibrant man into a shadow. He's started attending AA meetings, trying to claw his way back from the bottle. He's begun talking to Sarah again, small conversations about mundane things, grocery lists. The weather steps toward healing. He knows he can't undo the past, but he's determined to be there for Ethan, to be the father he failed to be for Jasmine. The town buzzes with the news, old wounds reopened. Reporters swarm Lakeview, their cameras flashing at the lake, at the police station, at the family's home. Ethan avoids them, retreating to his apartment, where he keeps working. He's not done. There's still Victor, the unknown contact from Mark's texts. Ethan traces the burner phone to a motel in a neighboring state, abandoned, but with records of a guest, named Victor Kane. He finds a grainy photo online, a man with cold eyes and a scar on his cheek. Ethan's algorithm flags another hit, a deleted file in a cloud account linked to Victor's. It's a video timestamped, a year after Jasmine's disappearance, showing her in a different room, her hair shorter, her face gaunt but alive. She's writing something, her hands trembling. The video ends abruptly. Ethan's heart races. He sends the video to Ruiz, who's now working with the FBI to track Victor. The family meets again at the lake, the new video playing on Ethan's phone. David's hands shake as he watches, hope and fear warring in his eyes. Sarah clings to Ethan, her voice a whisper. "She's out there, isn't she?" Ethan doesn't answer, but his resolve hardens. He'll find Victor, find the truth, no matter how long it takes. The lake stretches before them, its surface a mirror reflecting their pain, their hope, their unbreakable bond. Jasmine's voice lingers in the air, a reminder of the girl they lost, and the fight they'll never abandon. Somewhere, in the vast digital web, or the depths of the lake, her story waits to be finished, and Ethan will keep searching, until it is. But the story doesn't end. The threads of suspicion and betrayal weave deeper, ensnaring more than just the Carter family and their immediate circle. The town of Lakeview, with its idyllic facade, harbors secrets that stretch far beyond one stormy night. As Ethan digs deeper, he uncovers a network of corruption that touches every corner of the town, a conspiracy that has kept Jasmine's fate and Emily's buried for over a decade. Ethan's next breakthrough comes late one night, his eyes bloodshot from staring at his lap. He's been tracking Victor Kane's movements, cross-referencing his known aliases with property records in the region. He finds a cabin in the mountains, registered under a shell company linked to the same offshore account that received payments from Mark and Councilman Reed. The cabin is isolated, miles from any town, surrounded by dense forest. Ethan's gut tells him it's significant, but he knows he can't go alone again. He reaches out to Hannah, sharing the coordinates, and they agree to approach Ruiz with the information. Hannah's own investigation has led her to a chilling discovery. She's been combing through old police reports from neighboring towns, looking for patterns. She finds 3 other girls, all vanished within a 100-mile radius of Lakeview, all between. Each case was labeled a runaway, each investigation quietly closed. One report mentions a witness who saw a man matching Victor's description, a scar on his cheek, a limp in his walk, near the last known location of one of the girls. Hannah's hands shake as she compiles the data, realizing the scope of what they're up against. Victor wasn't just a drifter, he was part of something organized, something protected. Ruiz meanwhile is building a case against Councilman Reed. The financial records Ethan provided show a pattern of payments to the shell company, stretching back years. She's working with a federal agent now, a no-nonsense woman named Agent Laura Bennett, who specializes in human trafficking cases. Bennett's seen cases like this before: small towns, powerful men, missing girls written off as runaways. She's cautious but aggressive, pushing Ruiz to move faster. They raid Reed's office, seizing computers and files, but Reed's calm, his lawyer already on the scene, spinning a story about clerical errors in the town's budget. Ellen Reed, watching from the sidelines, feels the walls closing in. She's always known her husband's dealings weren't entirely clean, but she's never asked questions. Now with the police at their door, she's forced to confront the truth. She finds a hidden safe in Richard's office, one she's never seen before. Inside are documents, passports, with girls' faces, none of them Jasmine or Emily, but all young, all missing. Ellen's hands tremble as she realizes the scope of her husband's involvement. She doesn't tell Richard what she's found, but she slips a USB drive with copies of the documents to Sophie, meeting her in a dark parking lot, her face hidden under a hood. Sophie's investigation takes a new turn with Ellen's evidence. The passports point to a trafficking ring, with Victor Kane as a low-level enforcer. The real power lies higher up, in a network that spans multiple states. Sophie's editor warns her to back off, citing pressure from higher-ups, but she refuses. She publishes a preliminary article, careful not to name names, but it's enough to send shockwaves through Lakeview. The town's elite close ranks, but the cracks are showing. Anonymous tips flood Sophie's inbox, some from locals tired of living under Reed's thumb. Lila, emboldened by her confession to Ethan, decides to act. She goes to Ruiz, telling her everything: Tyler's anger, Reed's threats, the fear that's kept her silent. She hands over a journal she's kept since 2014, filled with memories of Jasmine, details of the party and her own guilt. Ruiz reads it, her heart sinking as she realizes how much was missed in the original investigation. Lila's testimony is enough to bring Tyler in for another round of questioning, and this time he cracks. Tyler admits to knowing more than he let on. He was involved with Victor, running errands for him, delivering packages he didn't ask about. He swears he didn't do what happened to Jasmine, but he saw her with Victor after the party in a car heading out of town. He thought she was running away, thought Mark had scared her, but the truth dawns on him as he speaks, and he breaks down sobbing, realizing he was complicit in something far darker. Ruiz presses him for Victor's location, but Tyler doesn't know. Victor was a ghost, appearing and disappearing without a trace. Ethan and Hannah, working together, track the cabin's coordinates to a remote area in the mountains. They convince Ruiz to organize a raid, but they insist on coming along, despite her protests. The raid is tense, the team moving through dense forest under a moonless sky. The cabin is empty, but it's clear someone was there recently. Food cans, a still warm coffee mug, a newspaper from last week. They find a hidden trapdoor under a rug, leading to a basement. Inside there's a small room, walls covered in star charts, just like the ones in Jasmine's notebook. There's a single photo pinned to the wall: Jasmine, older, her face gaunt but unmistakable, time-stamped 2 years ago. Ethan's knees buckle, but Hannah steadies him, her own heart racing. The raid yields no victor, but the evidence is damning. Forensics teams sweep the cabin, finding traces of DNA that match Jasmine's profile. Ruiz is shaken. She'd hoped for closure, not more questions. She sends the evidence to Bennett, who's now convinced they're dealing with a trafficking ring that's been operating for over a decade, with Lakeview as one of its hubs. The passports Ellen provided point to a network that moves girls across state lines, using small towns as staging ground. David and Sarah, kept in the dark about the raid, are falling apart. David's sobriety is fragile, tested by the new evidence that Jasmine might have been alive years after her disappearance. He starts attending church, something he hasn't done since he was a boy, seeking solace in prayer. Sarah, meanwhile, is rebuilding her relationship with Ethan, apologizing for the years she's been absent, lost in her grief. They start talking about Jasmine, sharing memories of her laughter, her love of the stars, trying to keep her alive in their hearts. Ethan's not ready to stop. He and Hannah dive deeper into the dark web, finding a forum where Victor's name appears again. They crack an encrypted post, revealing a shipment scheduled for next week, with coordinates pointing to a warehouse in a nearby city. Ethan wants to go himself, but Hannah convinces him to tell Ruiz. The FBI takes over, raiding the warehouse, and finding a group of girls, none of them Jasmine or Emily, but all part of the same ring. Victor's not there, but one of the girls, a terrified teenager, mentions a man with a scar, a man who talked about a special girl he kept for years, someone who loved the stars. The words hit Ethan like a freight train. He knows it's Jasmine. He and Hannah work tirelessly, following every lead, every whisper of Victor's movements. They find a pattern. Victor moves every few months, never staying in one place long. Ethan builds an algorithm to predict his next location, cross-referencing property records, police reports, and dark web chatter. The algorithm points to a small town in Oregon, a place with a history of missing girls. Ruiz and Bennett organize another raid, this time with Ethan and Hannah as consultants, their knowledge too valuable to ignore. The raid is a bust. Victor's gone, the house empty, but they find another notebook, this one filled with Jasmine's handwriting, dated just 6 months ago. It's a letter, addressed to Ethan. I don't know if you'll ever find this, but I'm still fighting. I'm still me. Don't give up. Ethan breaks down, clutching the notebook, Hannah's hand on his shoulder. The family gathers at the lake again, the notebook in Ethan's hand. David reads the letter, his voice breaking, and Sarah clings to him, her tears soaking his shirt. They don't know if Jasmine's alive, but they know she was, not long ago, and that's enough to keep them going. Ethan vows to keep searching, his skills sharper, his resolve unbreakable. Hannah joins him, their bond forged in shared loss, shared hope. Lakeview is changing, the Reed's empire is crumbling, Richard is indicted, Ellen leaves town, Tyler's shop closes, Lila finds peace in her confession, starting therapy to heal from her guilt. Sophie's article wins a Pulitzer, exposing the trafficking ring and forcing the state to investigate dozens of cold cases. Tom Carver is promoted, his conscience clear at last. Ruiz retires, passing the torch to Bennett, who promises to keep looking for Jasmine and Emily. The lake remains, silent and eternal, its depths holding secrets it may never reveal, but the Carters stand together, stronger than they've been in years, bound by love and loss. Jasmine's voice echoes in their hearts, a beacon guiding them forward. Ethan knows the road ahead is long, but he's not alone. With Hannah, with his family, with the truth slowly coming to light, he'll keep fighting, keep searching, until he finds his sister, or the answers that will let her rest.